Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us for tonight's edition of Wave News Extra. Here we are starting off the very top of this live stream. I'll let you know, I don't know if in my time setting up or making sure the SkyTrack camera network was up, this view from Simpsonville, taking a look at the outlet mall. So a clear sky. The lights really are all the ones down there on the path for the outlet mall, but rest assured, as we'll bring up the cue here for at least our temperatures at 8:05, very much well into fall for these nighttime temperatures, talking 55 degrees. Rest assured, it's going to be a conversation I will enjoy having with our meteorologist, Ryan Hoke, storm tracking team, as we keep talking not just sort of these chillier temperatures for some of you folks kind of further away from the city center, let's say, talking quick frost and potential freeze warnings that are coming up quite soon. So it's something to discuss a little later on tonight. But in the meantime, here we are in the Wave Now studio. Always appreciate you joining us as we unpack some of the day's big stories. I'm Jose Sosaya. Thanks for connecting, by the way, whether that's through the Wave Now app on your smart TV devices or right now on our multiple social media channel streams. So let's dive right into some of the bigger stories of the day. One we're going to start with actually came in as breaking news as a decision by the Kentucky Supreme Court. And what they ruled, the justices did, was the case of a man who was convicted of killing a Louisville father and his little daughter. Well, that verdict has been overturned. The murders of Brandon Waddles and his little 3-year-old daughter, Trinity Randolph. If you remember this case, this was back in 2020 in their home on Callard Avenue. A jury found Kevon Lawless back then guilty of 2 counts of murder, first-degree burglary, but that verdict wasn't until September of 22. Now, during the trial, police said Lawless used his girlfriend to set up Waddles to be robbed, and that she, along with a man named Evan Ross, who drove Lawless to Waddles' home, agreed to testify against him for plea deals. Now, Ross was arrested after being found to have lied on the stand. Lawless's attorneys asked for a mistrial after the jury had learned from media reports. So that was information that they ultimately could not avoid, and that sort of would throw into question impartiality or neutrality there. But for media reports that Ross had been arrested for perjury, one juror was replaced after telling the judge that they could not be impartial anymore. The new jury went on to find Lawless guilty of the murders. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the Supreme Court in the state saying in its decision, the trial court committed an error by denying Lawless's motion for a mistrial. If this is vacated, Lawless's convictions, or this vacates Lawless's convictions and sends the case back to the Jefferson Circuit Court. Now, as far as any sort of reaction or commentary from the parties who would have been involved, attorneys, judges, even the family of the victims of Brandon Waddles and Trinity Randolph, certainly what we could have tried to do to reach out to see if anyone was willing to comment, but it's still such a fresh decision that we're not sure what happens next and who's able to talk and who's not quite yet until there's a definitive decision on a court matter. But we have reached out. We're trying to see what more we can learn as far as what might be next in this process. And we'll make sure to keep advancing that for you here on Wave News, whether that's here on the live streams, online on our website, or of course on our broadcast news as well. Well, in another story update, and there was perhaps a mention earlier this week of this case out in Shepherdsville where we just didn't have the video yet to sort of highlight the serious accusation nature of it. But tonight, we want to let you know there's a little dog recovering. A man is in jail because of an act of alleged animal cruelty. This was caught on security camera by a store in Shepherdsville, a clear view into this parking lot, and pretty shocking video when you do see it, as our Wave News reporter David Mattingly is going to walk us through the disturbing video and to see how the human victim and the dog as well are doing.
It all happened right here in this parking lot. On Friday night, a man was walking his dog when he was accosted by another man. And for a dog owner, what happened next was almost unimaginable. You wouldn't know it to look at him, but this playful 2-year-old Chihuahua pug mix named Chip was subjected to an unexplained act of cruelty. And you might wonder how he and his puppy-like personality managed to survive.
It's terrible. I mean, I feel like if you can do that to a small dog, there's no telling what you could do to any life or another person.
Clay Smith was walking Chip Friday night when he was accosted by a man who pushed him to the ground. And when Smith ran to call police, the man grabbed Chip's leash and whirled the helpless little dog in the air. The torment ended when Chip was tossed into a dumpster before falling to the ground. X-rays later found no broken bones, just some swelling. But there are some injuries you can't see.
Have you noticed any change in behavior?
Yes, he barks through the night now. It's something he didn't do before. And he's very wary of strangers.
The attack was recorded by a security camera at Troutman's Dry Goods in Shepherdsville. They posted it on social media, leading to the arrest of 39-year-old David Craig. He pleads not guilty to charges of assault, cruelty to animals, and the torture of a dog. State records show he was out on parole after serving 19 years for burglary and wanton endangerment.
The hard part is not being vengeful, giving it to the Lord. And honestly, I pray for that man that he opens his heart to Jesus.
For now, it's the community that's opening its heart to Chip. Baskets of donations at Troutman's Dry Goods are overflowing with demonstrations of kindness. They are expressions of affection for a deserving little dog. The suspect remains in jail pending a $15,000 bond. In the meantime, the love keeps pouring in for little Chip. In Shepherdsville, David Mattingly, Wave News.
And whatever does come of potential decisions or comments or evidence laid out there in court, rest assured, it won't be, it can be David, but the reporting team is going to follow up on this story that's now gaining a lot more attention. Certainly a lot of folks having affinity for other pets because they're dog or cat owners themselves. And so just wanting to see what would come as far as any accountability or consequence based on the video that the Troutmans in Shepherdsville had recorded. More updates for you tonight. We've learned a JCPS teacher facing child porn charges appeared in federal court today. This is a picture of 51-year-old Brian Hines. He's accused of sharing videos of child sexual abuse and doing so with an undercover federal investigator. He was teaching at DuPont Manual's Youth Performing Arts School, YPAS, for those who would be closer to the program. But now he's charged with distributing and possessing child porn. He did plead not guilty in front of the judge. His next court appearance will be at the end of December. Now, switching over to another shocking case of accusations of child porn. People in Norton Commons say that they were, surprised to say the least after they found out one of their neighbors, he himself, was accused of possessing and then sharing child pornography. A source close to the investigation confirmed to Wave News the man is a popular social media influencer. We have learned since Michael Booth goes by the name Mr. Crafty Pants on the internet. Between all of his social media platforms, he had close to 1 million followers. Most of his work had focused on arts and crafts, tutorials, including some smart cutting machines. What you're seeing is our visit to the neighborhood, which was to the address that we could find on record for Mr. Booth. But his arrest report states police started their investigation back in August. And again, looking and reading into the report, an account on a social media app called Kick was reported as one that was sharing child porn images. The arrest report reveals that a subpoena linked the account to Booth's home. Investigators say the images were shared more than 15 times. And our Fernando Garcia Franciscini went out to talk to some of the neighbors closer to the house, and they told him they couldn't believe this was happening, or the allegations of this were happening so close to where they live.
Seeing that was extremely sobering, realizing that was just right across the street from us. So yeah, I think everyone was just kind of hit with this realization that you never know what's going on.
So Booth appeared in court today. That's our footage of him. The judge issued a $100,000 bond. If he were to post bond, he'd be placed on home incarceration and would not be allowed any access to the internet. He's due back in court now on October 31st, I should say. Now, to that end, if you're not necessarily familiar with all the different myriad social media platforms and apps that are out there, you might ask, what is Kik? And it's spelled K-I-K. It's a social media app that operates in a way that many experts would describe it as prioritizing an anonymity for users. So you get to protect your own identity and present that alias, as it were. And in turn, some of these expert safety groups, in particular advocates for children, consider this to be a particularly dangerous platform for kids and for teens. So today, Wave News troubleshooter Alina Noakes spends some time talking to groups like the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, and they call this platform a, quote, predator's paradise.
You don't even have to pretend to be someone else. It's designed to be connecting people with strangers.
No profile picture or real name required, just an email address. Notably, loose controls within Kik, fostering what the National Center on Sexual Exploitation calls a predator's paradise.
A lot of times it's just predators collecting these images of child sexual abuse material and then uploading it and sharing it with other adult predators on the app. But again, because of how Kik kind of encourages interacting with strangers, there's definitely also the facet of connecting with children on the app and actually grooming that specific child.
That's just one of the reasons the app made Nicosi's Dirty Dozen in 2023, a list dedicated to calling out the companies they say are profiting off of and enabling sexual exploitation. Since making that list, Kik has made some changes, but Nicosi questions just how effective they are. Now you have to be 18 to join the app, but in the US, there is not an age verification requirement. The app also removed a feature promoting stranger chats and then replaced it with the Kik It feature, which essentially does the same thing.
The reason that they put in these tools so that they can say they're doing something, and they do something, but they won't really be incentivized to make sure that their tools and their scanning and their moderation are 100% effective unless they can be held accountable for when they're not effective.
In 2024, Bark, an internet safety app, listed Kik as the app with the most severe sexual content. So safety features on the surface, yet the warnings still exist.
That was our Alina Noakes reporting there. Nicosi continues to push for legislative changes actively. It says that they think would incentivize tech companies to meaningfully protect kids. Here at Wave News, we did reach out to Kik for a comment on the story. We just have not heard back an official statement on their part just yet. More stories tonight, and this is in light of sort of the wind of a possible pause in SNAP funds because of the government shutdown federally. Some families in Indiana reaching out to talk to them. Some say they feel like they're collateral damage in the stalemate of the negotiations. If the shutdown continues, funds would be out for thousands across the country who need them starting in November. If you look specifically for Hoosiers, for Indiana families, that includes about 600,000, roughly 10% of the state's population. Of course, that context would extend to whatever the percentage is for Kentucky, for Ohio, but this is just what is at stake as far as a percentage for Indiana. Reporter Logan Gay talked to one mom about her family's struggle.
Samantha Bandy is focusing on making ends meet for her and her children after finding out her SNAP benefits might be paused until further notice because of the federal government shutdown.
Realize that most of it is out of my control.
She's one of the many people balancing a job and raising kids who still can't make ends meet. She says SNAP benefits are a lifeline for them.
It's provided a lot of relief with being able to get my kids healthy meals, get myself healthy meals.
She says this couldn't have happened at a worse time. Her rent just went up. She's recovering from a surgery and is preparing to start physical therapy, which will cut into her working hours at her job.
It's not a fun thing to need food stamps. Being in poverty and all that, it's not something that, at least not me, that I want to be in. And programs like this have just had a huge impact and help for me.
And her kids, who she's trying to shield from these troubles.
I don't want them to be uncomfortable or hungry or worried about anything.
Right now, she says she has 2 weeks of food left and 1 week of SNAP funds before she runs out. She says after that, if the funds aren't there, She plans to wing it and go to as many food banks as possible.
That's really stressful, especially because most of them are open during the day when I'm at work, and I don't want to take off work, then miss out on money from work.
But until then, she's dealing with the uncertainty by focusing on stretching her meals.
It's like I got one more day left on it. You could make a baked potato and put to make it enough for, that's probably what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Our thanks to reporter Logan Gay for that update. We do have more stories to share with you coming up on tonight's Wave News Extra. One of them, the bombshell revelation of these arrests in two separate FBI investigations into gambling fraud and sports betting fraud. One of those has its link to a former Cards basketball player, now NBA player, Terry Rozier. Our team spent some time looking into what the available information is that federal prosecutors have laid out those accusations. So we're going to dive into that after this break with many more stories to unpack for you tonight. It is 8:21. We're going to be right back with much more of Wave News Extra. Eight 23 on this Thursday night. Thanks for sticking with us here on Wave News Extra. And certainly a story beyond just you folks checking in with us on the live stream, but something that probably showed up in a lot of news feeds on social media. In fact, sort of the big breaking story generating a lot of that can you believe this conversation? And of course, for us living here in Louisville, this connecting point to someone who's involved in this investigation, a former Cards basketball player and NBA athlete currently. Well, he was arrested in Orlando this morning as a result of a massive federal sports betting probe. The story, again, the talk of all major leagues, not just the NBA, but ex-UofL player Terry Rozier and NBA head coach Chauncey Billups, a former player, Hall of Famer, were the two marquee names among 30 people arrested, and they are two separate gambling investigations, one having more so to do with what federal agents are calling poker-involved gaming sort of fraud, the other much more specifically about sports betting. Wave News anchor Brian Schlotsky did take some time today to take a closer look at what is separate and unique about each of the cases and what we do know so far. So here is Brian with that update.
Today, we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Cosa Nostra.
Gambling, the mob, and a former UofL star arrested in a nationwide roundup.
The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling.
Thursday, the FBI took down more than 30 people across 11 states as part of a pair of investigations related to illegal sports betting and rigged poker games backed by the mafia. Among those arrested, professional athletes and coaches, including former Card Terry Rozier. The current Miami Heat player was a star for Louisville from 2013 to 2015, before playing in the NBA for the Charlotte Hornets and the Heat. Thursday's arrest related to his time in Charlotte in March of 2023. At the time, multiple sports books reported a surge of Rozier prop bets. They were taking the under on his points, rebounds, and assists. The bets cashed in as Rozier left the game with an apparent injury after only playing 10 minutes.
We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
Also arrested, NBA Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups. He's the current head coach for the Portland Trail Blazers. His alleged role, part of a scheme to rig underground poker games that were backed by mafia families.
Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
ESPN received a statement from Terry Rozier's attorney, Jim Trusty, who tells the sports outlet that his client is, quote, not a gambler and, quote, looks forward to winning this fight. Brian Schlonsky, Wave News.
To that end, ESPN did also ask the NBA for a comment on Rozier and Billups' arrests, respectively. The league sent a statement saying in part, and I'm just reading the quote back to you, that they're in the process of reviewing the federal indictments, that Rozier and Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and that the association will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. As an aside, Terry Rozier is in the last year of his 4-year, $96 million contract with the Miami Heat. Wave News did want to reach out to the UofL for any potential comment it might have had, given the ties he had to playing to the school all those years that he did. At our last check, we had not heard about a specific statement from the university just quite yet. Into more stories, and here we're branching out as far as a Kentucky context, because more cities, neighborhoods, leaders, local governments say they're reporting having found recent flyers that were put out by a group claiming it's the Ku Klux Klan. These were found in now Frankfort, Lexington, Midway, and Versailles. Well, today, hearing from Frankfort police saying this is not the first time that they've tracked something like this happening. And even though speech is protected under the First Amendment, leaders, officials saying that they believe this has no place in their communities. Midway and Frankfort have since been asking folks to share any surveillance videos that might help identify if any crimes were committed in the act of putting the flyers out, maybe littering or trespassing. Lexington police are also calling on people to call police if they did find any of that material. To that point, let's see, Governor Andy Beshear did respond to the incidents on Facebook, and that is what I'm going to pull up here, just to scroll that up and share that. This is the official post from the governor saying, quote, I want to be very clear. These messages have no place in Kentucky, and I condemn them in part. You can read the full statement that is up there right now. Certainly a story, as I would say, whatever might come as a development, we'll make sure to share those with you when we do confirm them. Back in Jefferson County, the interim county clerk, that's David Yates. Well, this afternoon, he shared a little bit more information about the upcoming special election that is going to happen in 2025. And you see quickly there's some important dates. We'll recap that. But it's important to point out Yates was appointed as interim clerk following Bobby Holtzclaw's death. Yates, the now former Senate Minority Whip for the state Senate, his seat in the state legislature has to be filled in District 37. That covers PRP and Valley Station. So that special election is in December to fill the seat. We did talk recently to both local county party leaders, Democrats and Republicans. We do know as far as nominees, the Jefferson County Republican Party chose to nominate Calvin Leach for the special election. Jefferson County Democrats chose Gary Clemens. This is David Yates talking about the next important deadline for voters who would be interested in, or the Senate District 37 and what pertains to them. And let's see if I can play that sound from David Yates for you.
We have your deadline to register to vote is November 17th. If you haven't voted before, now's your opportunity. It's important to have your voice heard.
The Jefferson County Clerk's Office website is also in the process of being updated right now. All of that information, such as sample ballots, poll locations, the exact borders and parameters of District 37, they're all going to be laid out there on the county clerk website. If you still had questions, you can also call or visit the Jefferson County Election Center, would be another resource to get that information across in that regard. And let's see if I was trying to pull up some extra information. Let's see if we can do that. Okay. Just pulling up some different things. Yeah. Just a reminder about the key date there being November 17th, as it were. All right. Switching over to another story involving local leadership. Kentucky Congressman Morgan McGarvey was in Louisville today listening to constituents talk about the rising cost of health care, among other necessities. McGarvey visited South Louisville, making a stop at the Iroquois Family Health Center and the Iroquois High School Health Clinic, both on Taylor Boulevard. Families, they're talking about their struggle to pay medical bills right now. The representative said he fears if government does not reopen soon on Capitol Hill, more people would lose medical insurance and healthcare providers would be stretched thinner than they already are.
But you look at it, we've got an amazing community health center network in Louisville with 40,000 patients. But again, they take everybody. And so it's not just what's going to happen here as the Medicaid cuts go through, as Donald Trump's plan to force everybody's health insurance to go up, kicks more people off health insurance. It's not just in Louisville. That's going to happen outside of Louisville. And one of the things that's going to get really interesting is when we see more and more of the people who live outside of Louisville having to come here also for services, not having the ability to pay. How thin does it spread the resources like this? And how are we able to keep our friends and neighbors well in this community?
At this point, the shutdown is at its second longest length in U.S. history. And Democrats have said, arguing that they want a funding bill addressing Medicaid cuts and expiring Obamacare subsidies. Congressional Republicans say they're not discussing that until Democrats pass their funding bill with no changes as it stands to the current verbiage there. Let's see, setting up more videos here. We are at 8:33. A story that had its share of awful, tragic, violent end, but it also has been more than 3 months since a Kentucky state trooper was shot near Bluegrass Airport. He survived. Tonight, we're seeing that trooper's body cam footage of the shooting as it was happening for the very first time and how Good Samaritans stepped in to save his life. Reporter Phil Pendleton was at the ceremony, and as a warning, as we do break down some of this video, and we've been careful and exercising the judgment to edit it, but we do want to warn you, some of the footage itself that we're going to play could still be hard to watch.
Trooper Jude Remillion had pulled over a pickup truck on Terminal Drive. Christian music heard playing on his cruiser radio. He approached the driver. The shooter was in the back seat. Both the dash cam and Remillion's body cam then picked up him running away. As the driver got out, the shooter got in the driver's seat and took off. People rushed to help him.
Just tell me what to do.
You okay?
Ready for another drink?
Look at me. You married? No? Got a girlfriend?
Jimmy and Jessica Alexander, daughter Taylor Hall, and Airport Officer Adam Arnold were all there.
I just kept trying to give him water and just keep him cool and talk to him.
Police say in this situation, timing and training was everything. The way Remillion reacted to what had taken place to him, even after he was shot, to the timing of the 4 Good Samaritans who rushed to help him. They say everything worked out just perfectly because of what they did and when they did it. therefore were given the highest honor for civilians or non-state police employees.
If that was my son, or me, I would want somebody to do the same thing, and that's just how I was raised.
I believe that there are moments in life where the right people are at the right place at the right time.
Troopers at the ceremony say despite conducting thousands of traffic stops every day, watching the video was still extremely difficult. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
As for Trooper Ramillion, he's still recovering from the incident, but was walking on his own power today, and grateful to have had these people come and save him when they did. As you heard the trooper say, the timing of the right people there being everything. So we're going to touch more on what fall weather and dipping into these colder frost freeze territories is going to do tonight on Wave News at 11 with the storm tracking team. But a reminder that it's as good a time as any to prepare your home for what winter is going to bring. Things like snow, ice, wind, and rain. They can be physically uncomfortable depending on what's going on at your abode, at your house, but it can also really cause financial pain if or when the damage is severe. Wave News anchor Dawn G had a chance to talk to a home insights expert about how important it is to be prepared and to then in turn make ends meet.
It's really important to just take care of your home each season with regular maintenance. It can help keep your home in really great shape.
For most, buying a home will be the largest or one of the largest purchases they will ever make in life.
A lot of homeowners just wait until something breaks to fix it.
When you wait until something breaks, it can also bust your budget. Courtney Klosterman, a home insights expert with Hippo.com, works to provide quick quotes for homeowners for insurance on their digital platform, while also providing simple protective steps that not only save you money, but also ensure safety.
Taking on DIY projects, that can have a big benefit to your own budget in the long term.
Klosterman stresses, start at the top. The roof.
Clogged gutters and downspouts can actually be very dangerous for your roof and your foundation due to water.
Water damage can cause destruction in numerous ways, from ceilings to walls to wood to mold and more.
So it's really important to get ahead of these types of issues early by cleaning gutters before the weather gets too cold.
Next, check the roof line. Take a minute to inspect it all, from the ridge to the rafters to the eaves. Just like the clogged gutters and downspouts, water from a leaky roof can cause damage all the way down to the foundation. Tree branches brushing your roof can also pose a damage risk, especially if they fall.
It's incredibly beneficial, your roof, to your home's protection, and replacing your roof is one of the most expensive home upgrades. A roof replacement in the US can come anywhere from or cost anywhere from around $5,000 to $15,000.
Although depending on the material, it can cost more. If that gives you a chill, what about a drafty window?
Drafty windows and doors can be comparable to leaving a window open. So that can really negatively impact your energy bill. Checking for any potential drafts around your window and door frames. Look for cracks, gaps, or any signs of rot, and address any necessary fixes.
Some more tips from Dawn as part of this Make Ends Meet breakdown for homeowners. If you have a fireplace, this is the time. Could be to check for blockages and buildups in the chimney and the flue, fill any cracks and clean up that area if you can. It's also a perfect time to check your smoke detectors, your carbon monoxide alarms. If you're not comfortable with any of the more, let's say, difficult or precarious maintenance tasks, just make sure you do reach out and hire a professional. You could find more of these helpful tips and just ways to structure what that home repair plan could be as part of Dawn's story on wave3.com. We're going to be right back after this brief pause with more of tonight's Wave News Extra. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us for tonight's Wave News Extra 841 on October 23rd. For anyone thinking already about those vacation plans, could be for the holidays, for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Some of that, depending on where family might be, could involve a quick road trip, maybe a longer road trip. Options there really just being, functionally speaking, cars or planes. But 2 years after getting a $500,000 grant to study relaunching Amtrak train service between Louisville and Indianapolis, the team members involved in this say they've made some progress, but admit it's only just the start of what they're trying to present and make sure they can accomplish. But they do say there's growth in the region, and gridlock on interstates have made some plans to travel by train a little more appealing to consumers. So Wave News anchor Rob Wells wanted to take a deeper look at what this project is trying to accomplish.
Officials with the Kentuckiana Regional Planning and Development Agency say that the Amtrak service would create a 313-mile route reconnecting Louisville to Chicago.
But Amtrak, in the run-up to the current federal transportation authorization bill, they made a series of proposals, what their network might look like in the future. And they had identified through, I think it's called the Amtrak Connects Us program, that Louisville, would be back on their map.
The first part of the study, he says, is still wrapping up, which includes possible locations of stations along the corridor and how many people might use the service for work or travel.
That step 2 is where it's determined, how fast might the trains go? Is it viable? What would the cost be? What's the market demand?
He adds that the new service would need to travel as fast as cars, something the last train service didn't offer.
It did exist as late as the early 2000s. The Kentucky Cardinal, I believe, was the name of the train, and that was hampered by low speeds. To your point, to your question earlier, it wasn't. It took quite a bit longer to take a train journey to Indianapolis and Chicago from Louisville than a car trip or bus trip even, and certainly an airplane.
As work progresses here, it's the same in Indiana, where similar grants were secured for a connector line to Chicago. Rob Wells, Wave News.
Now, Rush says there's no final date set just yet on finishing their respective study project, and that a new passenger train, those cars, would use existing railway lines, though a new navigation system would share, or at least through a new navigation system, and they'd share that infrastructure with older and the newer cars. And even though Amtrak initiated the relaunch, Rush also adds they're not entirely sure they're the ones who will ultimately be running that service. All right, coming back here closer to home in Louisville, the Louvre jewel heist has rehashed some memories of museum robberies and discoveries in the not too distant past. So our Logan Perrone wanted to revisit a time one of our museums in Louisville was a character in another story of stolen art. Now, the Speed Art Museum didn't have something taken from it. Rather, they became the ones possessing a stolen piece of art, and officials didn't know about it for decades. It was around 2011 when they discovered they had the stolen artwork. It was a triptych that was taken from an Italian home in the 1970s before it made its way to a reputable art dealer in New York. The Speed Museum suddenly found out from Homeland Security the item was part of a major theft. And so we talked to curating staff leaders at the Speed Museum about how they handled that particular situation.
So it was clear to us this work of art did not belong to us, and it was important that we return it, which we did. We created an exhibition around this because we wanted to be fully transparent and to draw attention to art theft and how museums behave responsibly.
So in that case, graphics of the evidence were also presented right next to the triptych when it was on display at the Speed Art Museum. Ultimately, the artwork was sent back and returned to the Italian government. Spence encourages people buying any kind of art to work with a reputable dealer when possible. There are also a lot of databases that track stolen artwork all over the world. You could actually find some of those linked into Logan's story that is up on wave3.com. Heading over to Southern Indiana, a judge granted a motion involving the drowning death of a teen at this pretty controversial dam. Amanda Mallett is seeking damages after the drowning of her son, Andre Edwards Jr. He drowned at the Providence Mill Dam in New Albany Memorial Day last year. Our partners at the News and Tribune are saying the city, the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, the Clarksville Town Council, the Clark County Commissioners, and the Floyd County Commissioners are all subject to this lawsuit. Mallett's legal counsel is requesting the city answer the plaintiff's questions. The judge approved the motion, stating that the city, quote, shall fully and completely respond to the discovery request within 14 days of the order. The plaintiff's complaint alleges the defendants, quote, were negligent regarding this incident that led to A.J. Edwards drowning. The city of New Albany recently filed a petition to transfer this case to the Indiana Supreme Court, but that request is still pending. More stories tonight. If you have a peanut allergy or someone you know has a peanut allergy, you know it can be pretty serious. Well, there's a new approach trying to develop and help prevent peanut allergies in kids, and it seems to be gaining some positive feedback. There's some new research finding that feeding peanut products to babies has helped thousands of kids grow up without developing those allergies. We talked to Dr. Elizabeth House with Commonwealth Pediatrics saying allergic reactions to peanuts can sometimes be severe. It's an allergy most people do not outgrow, but that with newer guidance from a pediatrician on if and how you would introduce things like peanut butter, Dr. House saying that it can make a significant difference.
It costs almost nothing, right? It costs like whatever a jar of peanut butter costs to introduce it early. And it makes a huge difference in people's lives. It makes a huge difference in the cost of healthcare to the healthcare system, all those things, just for a simple intervention of just introducing peanut early.
The doctor says that at least among discussions in scientific literature and research, they know early exposure to other allergens for things like eggs, tree nuts, cow milks can be seen as a benefit, but of course to do so with the guidance of a medical expert to guide parents through how you would introduce all of that. Now heading over to another story, two students at the University of Cincinnati, they're getting some kudos for creating, quote, game-changing technology for high school athletes and high school athletic programs. It's an app that would make sports communication easier. Reporter Brooklyn Andrus has the story.
The pain point we're trying to solve is bringing everything to one place so coaches, athletes, and parents can focus on what's important, the people and the skills you're learning, not the administrative tasks that are just way too burdensome right now.
Fifth-year UC students Jaden Walton and Noelle Shepard explained the struggles they faced in high school as athletes and when they returned as coaches when it came to communication.
I always thought when I was in high school, what's going on? Like, why is it unorganized?
It is so hard to manage a ton of parents who aren't really that active within the sport themselves, and then to try and get a hold of these kids who are just trying to manage high school and everything else.
The pair met by chance and entered their idea into an innovation challenge in 2023. 2 years after winning that competition, dozens of high schools spanning from Texas to New Jersey now use Motive as their main form of sports communication. The app handles everything from scheduling to statistics and even apparel orders.
It can also take attendance for you. So coaching in a sport like track, we have multiple athletes. It helps us kind of navigate who's there and who's not, and kind of focus on the coaching part and not little logistics, stuff like that.
Motive also tackles newly implemented Ohio Senate Bill 29, which mandates traceable digital communications and limits the use of personal messaging on unregulated apps.
The compliance is getting very difficult. You can't just directly message an athlete. You have to loop someone else in. You have to be Senate Bill 29 for the state of Ohio, but there's many other states that have something like that compliant with any software. So we're a one-stop shop. We can have all that in one place, so you don't have to go piecemeal everything in together.
There's reporter Brooklyn Andrus with the story. Yesterday, the team that founded Motive talked to some leaders in athletics, debuting this app to more than 200 ADs, athletic directors and coaches in the greater Cincinnati area. They're also going to be stationed at UC's Innovation Hub to do some more demonstrations for groups that would like to incorporate that technology for sure. We'll be right back with one last pause to bring you the latest or the last little bit of stories we want to share tonight on Wave News Extra. So we'll be right back after this quick break. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. One more round of stories to break down for you on the stream of Wave News Extra. One university in Kentucky, well, they're rolling out a new scholarship to help first responders who may be thinking about a change in careers. The staff at Lindsey Wilson University in Adair County saying this scholarship is designed for those who want to continue education after their time in public service. First responders say there's a constant demand of emergency response jobs, and those often lead to early retirement. They also point out there's a higher suicide rate among first responders. While the new program, the resource, the scholarship applies to first responders who served at least a year as either a law enforcement officer, firefighter, EMT, even paramedics or 911 dispatchers.
We all need purpose. And I think sometimes when you are helping people at that level as a first responder and you go into something else, it just doesn't have the same, you kind of lose a little bit of that. And so my hope is that they can, find that purpose.
At the university, they say the scholarship is going to be available starting in their spring 2026 semester. Going to bring you back here into the studio with sort of a way to wind down with music and looking ahead to a big festival, one of the two big music festivals for next year. We've actually now learned a legendary metal band is going to be one headliner at Louder Than Life. That's going to be organizers saying that Iron Maiden was going to be one of the headliners on Thursday, September 17th for this music festival. 50 years together as an act. We're told they're planning to perform some of their classics, some of their deep cuts they haven't played live in years. This is adding to sort of the hype for the buildup because another headliner, My Chemical Romance, was also announced as a headliner for Louder Than Life. The whole festival weekend in earnest starts on September 17th. And on that note, 3 WKU grad students had a pretty cool role helping out this year's Louder Than Life. The students were working from the WKU. I'm going to excuse myself there. Sorry, y'all. The students were working from the WKU Disaster Science Operations Center. They've helped provide heat stress monitoring and weather support at the festival. Nearly 80,000 people came to have some fun at the 4-day festival in September, but at times we were there covering how the temperatures got pretty high, leading to some heat-related illnesses. The students helped collaborate to monitor and predict the heat stress, using specific locations to find the most impacted spots out there on the grounds. The students involved say this experience helped them get a lot of firsthand knowledge on how weather impacts huge events and how communication is crucial. Other work also connected them with local emergency management leaders overseeing all the safety operations. So shout out to them for doing the work they were doing to try to keep folks as cool and as safe as they could be. A reminder, all of our stories beyond just what, of course, we share with you here on the live stream, on Wave Now, on our social media channels, all the top stories and updates live right here on wave3.com, our homepage with the top stories. Scroll down, going across every kind of category for local, regional, all there at your disposal. Often, if you do change your settings, you can get those push alerts for the kinds of stories you want to get updates on sent to your phone. Just download the free Wave News app. And then for weather, as far as that's concerned, the Wave Weather app is also a great resource to have pretty close by. Hope you stick around with us as we get ready for tonight's newscast on Wave News at 11. Going to have our storm tracking team talking about a frost and freeze warning for a lot of outlying areas here in the metro. Our reporting team bringing their original stories as well, something we're going to look forward to sharing with you all. And that's going to do it for us. My name is Jose Sosa. Yep, always appreciate you all stopping by to connect with us and the stories that we're following and everything that's going on in the community right here where we live. All right, we'll see you all tomorrow night at 8:05. Until then, take care.